Yeah, so karibuni sana to this mentorship session by ACEK FL. Everyone is here. Asanteni sana for making time for this. And before we dive in deep to the session, I just want people at least to introduce themselves. We'll start with Doreen. Kindly tell us what you do. 5 to 10 seconds.
Thank you, engineer. My name is Engineer Doreen Kago. I'm a civil engineer by profession, specifically in roads. I'm a senior engineer at Kenya Urban Roads Authority. I work in construction department. So basically, my work is just design and supervising roads construction. That's all I do.
Thank you very much, Engineer. Karibu sana. Thank you for joining us. Next, we have Engineer Mwangi. Francis.
Hello everyone. Francis Mwangi, majina yangu. Civil engineer kutoka Konza Technopolis. What do we do in Konza Technopolis? It's a whole spectrum. We'll discuss about this as we go on.
Okay. Karibu sana, karibu sana. Thank you for joining us. Next, we have Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Hi, I'm Engineer Latoya Ovna. I am a director at Design Master Studios Engineers. I'm a structural engineer and a claims expert by profession. And I'm happy to be here. I think as the conversation goes on, proceeds, we will talk about my many other hats.
Karibu sana, Engineer Latoya. Next, we have Nancy. Nancy, can you hear us, Engineer?
Yes, she can, but she's in a meeting, so I'm sure she'll just type.
Okay, she's in another meeting. Okay, that is good. That is. And then we have our mentee right here, Pasi. Pasi, could you please tell us what you do?
Hi all, I'm Pasi from Give Africa. I am in the transport department and mainly do traffic studies, road safety, and a little bit of design.
Karibu sana Pasi. I guess we can dive straight into it. Oh, by the way, I'm supposed to introduce myself. My name is Kenneth Alora. In the process of registering for PE, I work for Procon Consulting Engineers Limited, and quite honestly, I can't say which specific field of civil engineering I'm in because we do everything from airports to structures to roads and highways to even technical audits. So, karibuni everyone. I shall be your guide today. So let's go straight in. Now, let me just share this screen. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
So, wacha tuanze wakati huu. Yeah. So as you can see from the first slide, we are going to be discussing mentorship on the first 2 years in engineering as a graduate engineer. Majority of us have already gone through that journey. We are now just newly registered as professional engineers or in the process. But for this particular session, we'd like to guide those graduate engineers who are between 2 to 3 years in the field, and they would want to know what can we do, how are we going to progress, yeah, into the next step of engineering. So the presentation outlined the topics that I managed to get or to do my own research on. The job search, what happens when you're doing your job search, when you're straight from campus, how do you do it, you know, maneuvering the work environment, your career path, how are you going to map out your career path, what are your long-term and short-term goals, yeah, what skills do you require to use such that you can maneuver the work environment properly, and also what company related policies should you be aware of such that at least you can, you know, balance yourself in the job. So we start with the job search. Yeah. So how I put it, the tips and hacks that graduate engineers, or basically the job, should use, yeah, so that they get the job. And sorry, from this Zoom, it's put the screens, your screens on one side. So let me just open another. Okay, there we go. So the first tip is your resume, not your CV. Your resume should be short, precise, and up to date, which is approximately 1-2 pages, because basically if you come and you've just done about 1-2 years, I don't think anyone would expect a novel, yeah, as a CV, because even sometimes people who you're sending the CV to, even them, they're busy. They don't want to pass through pages and pages of someone who actually wants to come and work for them. So your resume should be approximately 2 pages. If you push it further, you can even do 3 pages, but not past that. Where do you look for jobs? You look for jobs in the print press, online, you know, reference from networking groups such as FL, Future Leaders. These are the people who will, you know, get out there. They have ears on the ground. They should tell you this and this company or this and this organization is looking for an intern or is looking for a graduate engineer. So for you, you should have your ears, you know, on the ground. The third one, you should be open to internships, you know. I know right now, you know, things are tough, and sometimes internships will basically not be paying or something. And there was even a running joke earlier on about internships being or teaching themselves how to make mandazis or something so that they can survive. But you should be open to internships, especially if they're in line with what you want to do. So let's say if you have an interest in trucking, and as one of us is in Konza, and he said that it's very multidisciplinary, you should, you know, advertise, I mean, join that and see what you can do, and not look at the monetary aspect. So we should all be very open to the internship positions. Now, during the interview, we go to the next point. During the interview, you should be very open-minded when answering, because, and I really had to, you know, write this down. Huh? Sometimes the interviewer wants to know your thought process and not the right answer, because in my opinion, engineering is not about cramming. What I've realized, some of these even interviewers, they want to, it's like they're pushing you to see that you have facts on your fingertips. Yet in my opinion, it's about what you've been reading all through 5 years of engineering, yeah? Then you embed it in your essence. So the interviewer should know that you have a certain thought process, even though the answer is not what is expected, yeah? So when you're going for the interview, just be very clear and have a certain thought process. I think that's what the interviewer would like to see. We move on to the next point, next tip. You should ask questions, because the questions, it's not the interviewer who's just asking. Even you should ask questions, especially when the interviewer gives you the opportunity of doing. And the questions need to be relevant, yeah, and things that you might really want to find out about, let's say, like the company policy that you want to start working for, okay? The next one, sometimes it's the company that you interview with, they take a bit too long, yeah, to get back to you as to whether you got it, whether you got the job or whether you did not, or anything. And sometimes even the what do you call them? Sometimes they don't even get back to you. Yeah. So you should cordially follow up if the response of the interview takes too long. So you can just draft an email and say something like, this is just a follow-up for the interview that happened on such and such a date. Yeah. What I was just inquiring about what you guys decided, or something like that. Yeah. So cordially follow up if the response of the interview takes too long. Okay, so I'm trying to go to the next slide. The next slide is career path. What is your career path? How are you going to map out your career path? And these are the tips and hacks that I came up with after my research.
Excuse me. Hello.
Yes.
Kibs wants to come back. Facilitate that.
Okay.
He's written on WhatsApp.
Okay. It was not showing me on my screen, so
okay.
I've managed to log back in.
Okay,
okay. Karibu.
I wanted to log with the computer, so I'll log out again and try with the computer.
All right,
okay,
no problem. All right. Okay. So shall we continue? Shall we continue?
Yes,
you
we
can.
shall.
Okay. Now, for your career path, what do you need such that you map your career? Now, first tip is to learn the ropes from first principles. Yeah. And from there, I wrote down, do site intensive work, i.e. survey work, materials testing, site inspection, because this, you need the hands-on experience first. So if you can get a site somewhere, for instance, for someone like me, my very first job was in Thika Road, when we were building Thika Road Lot 2. And I went straight deep down in the dirt. So I was in the materials department, and you need to learn what goes on in I call it the workshop. You need to learn what goes on in the workshop before you can come and actually look at these design manuals and see, oh, this is what they mean, this is what they want, this is what they want, So learn the ropes from first principle. Next tip is, of course, proceed to the office work when satisfied and do your design work. And the office work, that's where now you can learn what you've been doing, on site. So office work has a lot of design work, a lot of documentation, a lot of research, etc. So basically, you're now in front of a laptop and not in front of subgrade material or something, or theodolite or something. Yeah. So the next hack is register as a professional engineer in the line that best suits you. Now, this is after you've done your 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 years, and you know what anchors well with you. There are people who get anchored to materials engineering. There are people who get to structural engineering. There are people who go to water and wastewater systems. So it's up to what you've been doing from when you started working and what anchors well with you, such that now that's when you're supposed to register as a professional engineer. Now, that registration, I think you can do it after 3 years if you prove actually that when you fill in the logbook, if you prove that you've done your site work and your office work, and you're very confident, you can actually just submit your application so that you register as a professional engineer. Yeah. So another tip for your career path actually is always appraise your current position and see if it's in line with your path, which is basically what I've tried explaining in the past. At every stage, always question, is this in line with what I want to do in the future? Is this in line with, let's say if I want to be a materials engineer, can you be a materials engineer and what you're doing is majorly, documentation or survey work or something. So you always have to appraise yourself. Is this in line with what I want to do in the future? Yeah. So, and that's for a career path for people like who have decided to just stick to the BSc, which is the Bachelor of Science, Civil Engineering, or whatever. But the last tip and hack, which I think is very crucial, you should also consider further studies, and not just further studies in the traditional structural engineering, transportation engineering, pavements. A lot of other disciplines, they're really taking civil engineers or engineers as a whole. For instance, if you want to do oil and gas, project management, MSc, there are very many MSc programs for that. You can also do contract administration like Madam Chair here. So there are a multiple number of further study options that you can actually take part in. Yeah. So we move to the next slide. Skills. What skills are important? First one is analytical skills. By the time you've done 5 years of civil engineering, definitely you've honed these skills. Yeah. And one of my mentors actually in engineering told me, once you're done with 5 years of engineering, the rest is very easy, because you're starting in a career whereby you had no idea what to do. And it takes 5 years to really drum in all these skills. So past that, in the job industry, it's relatively easy. So you should have very good analytical skills. You can look at something and then you say this, and then you say, like, this is the process of how to attack it or how to handle it, etc., etc. Yeah. Next key skill is organizational skills, which I will have to admit at some point. Oh, someone wants to join again? Okay. I'll have to admit, organizational skills, it's both in the brain and physically. Like when I come to your desk, is it somewhere that I want to sit down, or I would not want to, associate myself, because everything is everywhere. And sometimes, yes, they say a busy office, you'll find all these printing papers, all these A3s, A2s, A1s on the floor. But yes, that's a busy office. But you should have very critical organizational skills. Next skill is the time management skill, and this one is very, very crucial. When an organization says check-in time or reporting time is 7:30, it is not 7:35, it is not 7:45, it is 7:30. When they say it's 8, it's 8. When they say we have a meeting at 10, it is 10, not 10:05, not 10:10. In fact, I'll give you an example. If you want to know people who really take this serious, I briefly worked at Ngong Road, the Japs who are doing the expansion. And these guys, if you're late even by 30 seconds, they don't, their work ethic is very, 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 what's the word that I'm looking for? You can't mess around with it. Yeah. So time management skills, very key. Communication and reporting skills, that's basically for documentation in meetings. You need to know how to express yourself. You need to know how to push your data out there, such that people out there can actually understand what you're saying. Next, we have, in fact, let me go to the networking skills first before going to leadership skills. So networking skills. I think by virtue of everyone being here, we basically have the networking skills, but it doesn't stop here. Yeah. EBK, IEK, we should use all these organizations for networking, we should use even online. There are many groups, many social media groups, many WhatsApp groups for civil engineers. You know, you should join them and just know how you can maneuver, know how you can talk to people who you know can help you in this industry. And then you end up also honing your networking skills. The reason I said leadership skills, I'll talk about it last, is because sometimes organizations don't want to give graduate engineers who are between 2 to 3 years just after campus a leadership role. But leadership skills are very key, especially if you're thrown in the deep end. I remember, like for me, it happened when we were to do nationwide traffic studies, and all of a sudden you're a graduate. I mean, from being a graduate engineer, now you have to manage your data guy, you have to manage your supervisors, 3 of them, you have to manage three drivers, because you need to move around. For instance, mine was in Western Kenya, so everyone needed to move around to the census points. And when there's a problem, someone will just come to you and ask, hey, what is going on? I need this and this, I need this and this, you know. So you need to really have key leadership skills so that you can manage some of these things. And you grow it in time. It's not something that just comes once. You have to grow it in time, know how to deal with people, know how to talk to them, etc., etc. So those are some of the skills that are needed. I'm sure there are others which maybe during the Q&A, some of our the guests who joined, they can tell us. So let's move to the next slide. Now, short-term and long-term goals. These are the tips and hacks that I came up with. Now, there's something called an individual development plan. This is after you've gotten your job, or you haven't, or, you know, you should always be clear with what your short-term and long-term goal is. What do you want to do in 6 weeks? What do you want to do in a month? What do you want to do in 6 months? You know, in 2 years, in 5 years? What do you want to do? And it's not strictly like, it shouldn't give you stress. It's something that you're looking at in the future. Yeah. So just think about it. Note it down. I hear people these days doing, is it vision boards or something? So you just think about it, pole pole, what do you want to achieve? Yeah, in the next 3 to 6 months, in the next 1 year, in the next. So have an individual development plan, which is very specific to you. You can't say, I don't know how to make something like this. I want to get a template or something like that. Everyone has his own individual development plan. Now, as you're doing these short-term and long-term goals, always evaluate, always appraise. Use the SMART technique. I don't know whether you've had the SMART technique, which is checking whether your long-term and short-term goals are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So they need to be very specific to you. They need to be measurable. It's not about them being over some sort of spectrum, like you say, I would want to, and then use an adjective, you know. It has to be very, very measurable. It has to be very, very, like it's something that is almost tangible, yeah. It has to be attainable and realistic, because, I mean, if you say in 3 years, I want to have built a house and bought 10 trucks, that, in my opinion, that doesn't make sense, you know. So they have to be very attainable, yeah, very relevant to what you're studying. I mean, not studying, very relevant to what you're doing, yeah, and time-bound. Sometimes people don't put a time to it, which brings a lot of, you know, procrastination and stuff. So you should always challenge yourself to put a time. You'd rather put a time and not meet it than not put a time. You get? So always put a realistic time bound so that you see how, you know, they can be measured. Next tip and hack. Do you see a future in the company, and what are you doing to meet your objectives? So for instance, when you're working in a small time or a big time, you know, company, you should always ask yourself, do you see a future? Do you see if you can grow in this company? Do you see them helping you grow, you know? So you should, at every point, you should always ask yourself, do I see myself, do I see a future in this company? And something I would like to point out, due to the nature of engineering in our industry right now in Kenya, there are very few companies whereby you can see a future in the company, let's say in 10 or 15 years. There are very few companies, and some of these companies are, you know, the big ones, the agencies, Kenha, Kura, you know, if you're working for the government, Ministry of Public, what is that called? Ministry of Transport, etc. Those are the ones that you can basically see a future. Otherwise, the other companies, I think we are project based, and some of the guests here can you know, strengthen my point on that. So sometimes if we're doing project based project, okay, a project based project, they will give you a contract for about 2-3 years. Then, depending on whether the project decides to end or there's extension, they can still extend yours. But after the project, now it becomes a bit too tricky for you to be kept in the company because you're actually a cost. Yeah. So I wanted to at least make you aware of that, whether you see a future in your company or not, you know. Then, so do you see yourself branching off? Which is basically what I've explained. And it's not only branching off towards engineering. For instance, there are some of us who are in Jomo Kenyatta University, and one of our units we did was irrigation engineering. And, you know, some people were like, oh my God, irrigation engineering, what can we do with this, etc. But in long term, if you've studied irrigation engineering and you have at least some bits and pieces of some agriculture, you can actually just branch off and start a farm or something. So you won't be tied to doing a lot of, you know, engineering stuff. It's about applying what you've actually learned, you get. So for some of us who did engineering, I mean, irrigation engineering, maybe in the future we can have our farms, yeah? So next slide. Company related topics. Yeah. So when you look at your company, are you aware of your company policies? Are you aware of whether they have insurance? Are you aware of like their trainings, their in-house trainings? What are their policies on let's say benefits, etc. All these things. You should be very aware of company policies, company cultures. For instance, again, I'll go back to my brief stint at Ngong Road. Check-in time or reporting time was 7, yeah? But when you report at 7, every day there's an exercise session for about 15 to 20 minutes. So it's you guys on one side and the casual laborers on the other side. And what you do, you just do stretches. There's even a guide. Then after that, there's always someone who, you know, closes that with prayer. So if you're from a company that doesn't do these things, then you come into this company, you know, it's going to be a bit tricky to get into it. But finally, when you get into it, you'll just be, you know, embedded into the company culture. So be aware of the company policies, cultures, values, and key stakeholders. I think in terms of key stakeholders, I'll talk in terms of highways and roads. You should always have at least someone in Kenha or Kura or the ministry, who can help you maneuver, who can help you by telling you, what's happening on their end, so that at least, you'll be one. Yeah. So key stakeholders are those majority agencies. When you're working in a company that has that is majorly focusing on structural engineering, at least for that, the key stakeholders are very, very, very varied. So you should strive at least and see how you can be well with them. Yeah. How to maneuver. Second point: do these cultures, do they resonate with you? Yeah. So I'll give you an example. Let's say it's company culture or policy every Friday to meet in a bar and restaurant and have a drink. But you've been brought up as a Christian, or you don't drink or something, yeah? But they say it's going to help you with your networking or something. Are you going, if it doesn't resonate with you, are you going to stick in that company? Are you going to leave, So you have to be very aware, at least for all these things, so that you see whether they resonate with you, so that you see whether you can actually internalize them and they won't disturb you, Yeah. Next, how do you see your role benefiting the company? And this is not only in engineering. Everywhere you go, you need to always assess your value add. You always need to question your value add. What is my value add in this project? What is my value add in this session? What is my value add in this meeting? Yeah, because if you have no value add, it doesn't anchor well with some people, who are there. So always show that I am here because of this specific purpose, and if I wasn't here, things would have been a bit too tough. Yeah. So the last one is areas to be improved. Now, this is after you've been in the company for a bit, and in your own opinion, you've seen that there are challenges somewhere, and you have a way of mitigating those challenges. So you have to question, are there areas to be improved? And if there are areas to be improved, are you just going to bulldoze your way in and start making changes? Or are you, there's a way that you can communicate that there are areas to be improved, which basically states that the first person you should talk to is your line manager. Yeah. So you have that discussion with your line manager, see whether there's what can be done, discuss your ideas, and if it can't be done, well, if it can be done, well, you get. Yeah. We are done with that. And now we are at the questions and discussions. Percy, we'll start with you. Any questions thus far?
Okay, so I have 2 questions that I want to ask. The first thing, if you register in one line, can you change? Like, for example, if let's say I register in transportation, and maybe after that my interest or my line changes, does it mean that you're stuck in transportation, or can you move around? And then the second question is about further studies. At what point do you know what you want to study in masters? What if you study something and then it changes? Like, for example, I know someone who did an MSc in structures, but they're totally in transportation. It's at what point, or at what age or student level do you choose when to do masters, or when is it best to start thinking about when to do masters?
Okay. I think I'll just briefly answer on both questions, and then whoever has something else to add can just add. Okay. So at least for me, I've been privileged enough to have a mzee or a father who's a civil engineer, yeah, and he basically registered in airports, highways, you know, and pavements. But when you come to the office, we are doing a lot of structures, yeah. We are doing a lot of structures. We see what can be done, you know. So registering in one discipline does not necessarily tie you down to this discipline, because, you know, essentially in campus, you did all these things, yeah. You did all these things and it doesn't lock you out at all. So you can register in the one that you're very confident about, and as you progress further, by the way, the learning never stops in engineering. There's always new information, there's always new technology, there's always something new. So you register what you're comfortable with, but always have a keen eye for the other disciplines, yeah? Okay. So for the second one, further studies. Again, it's the same template for the first question. So when you're doing a further studies, you can get someone who did oil and gas, then he comes back here to be a managing director of a small-time oil and gas company or something, but he's not in the technical bit of it. So you asked, when do you know? Yeah, when do you know what you want to do? Again, it depends on your interests, but what you cultured in campus, what you cultured in these first 2 to 3 years in engineering, because I would also not advise anyone to immediately join the master's program. And even some of these scholarship groups, which I would advise anyone to, you know, to apply for, they give a cutout of about 2 years experience. Yeah, so you need to show that you've done 2 years experience of work related stuff, etc before you can actually join, or you can actually submit your application for a scholarship. Yeah, so within those 2 years, at least you'd have gotten some guidance on what you want to do, yeah, so that at least now you apply for it. And always go for what interests you, what you see you can grow in. So it shouldn't really tie you down that since I'm working in a transportation environment, my master's has to be in transportation. No, there are people who work in structures and then they go into a master's of project management or a master's of contract administration or something, yeah? So I hope that answers you. And if there's anyone else to add on to that, I would appreciate.
May I speak, please?
Yes, Engineer Karibu.
Thank you very much, Alora. That was a quite comprehensive presentation, and it was really good. We should keep it as our template for every session.
No problem. I got you.
Yes. It was quite comprehensive, not only for this session. I'm sure you will use it more and more. You've actually mentioned everything. Let me say so. So whatever I will do, and most of us is just adding to what you said, not plus, but just either clarifying or emphasizing on what you've just said. First, I'll answer the question she asked. When do you know when to do your further studies? I don't think there's a specific answer to that. And what I always say is get the best out of your situation. You know, once we graduate, we are all presented we go to different situation scenarios. You know, some don't get job for 3-4 years, others immediately, others go to the government, others, others you're called for scholarship. So when you're making a decision, and going back to the presentation that was done by Ken, assuming you already know your roadmap, you know, maybe someone wants to become a researcher, someone to a lecturer, someone wants, you know, it will assist you make that decision, you know. Yes, someone wants to become a CEO very soon, so that person might want to do MBA immediately, project management, and not focus in that mainstream engineering. You see, people are different, and also the scenario that you presented. You see, like now you in Give Africa, the best thing is learn as much design as possible. You see, yeah. So, and this what Alora was saying, learn your environment or your company policy. I would put it, be adaptive. You know, yes, engineers are very good at this. Wherever you are, learn the environment, the opportunities that are there, get them. Then the other question, okay, I think I've answered the two questions. Yes.
You've touched on the questions.
Yes. Ken, let me give an example of where we met with Ken, the company we worked for. And we all left it. All the engineers who started in that company left. I don't know, I think it's the company culture or it was our culture that we were really conflicting and we felt we were wasting time, you know. Yeah, it is all of us, someone is saying this is an international company, but as an engineer who is there, you're learning zero, you know, and we all left. So when you join a company or that big project, it was the big project, you know, but like,
which project are we talking about?
Pardon?
Which project are we talking about?
For purposes of this webinar that is being recorded, the company and the project shall remain anonymous.
Yes. So as an engineer, you need to know, you know, to understand, really, am I adding value to myself, to my career? You see, yes, or just to be written in the CV, but at the end of the day, you know, you've not learned anything. You actually feel you're losing what you knew because you're just there, you see. Yes. So we all left the company. But some of us went back to the project, but from a different side. Yes. So these are small things that, as an engineer, you need to identify very fast. And I still go back to the presentation. What is your roadmap? What have you chosen for yourself? What Engineer Alu presented? And maybe the other points I would want to clarify is what he mentioned about the units he did, irrigation engineering. Someone told me in engineering, whatever you do as an engineer, it adds value to your engineering career, from school to learning. Passing, like, you know, in Give Africa, you're doing traffic count. Sometimes you're given some assignment and you feel, really, do I need to do this as an engineer? You know, yes. You're in engineering office, and one day, maybe somewhere as a project engineer, you'll remember that day. Okay, so yeah, that will assist you. And if an opportunity presents, I'm in highways, but I get more PJs in structures. Okay, and I do things so that I am able to place food on my table from structures. Yeah, so be adaptive, open-minded, and also be smart, as it was mentioned. I think that's enough for me.
Okay. Thank you very much, Engineer. That was very good insights, even to me. Anyone else who wants to chime in on something? Mwangi, I mean,
Yes.
first of all, yes, you Kwanzaa, you are supposed to, we have even a lot to learn from you, even as we are mentoring one.
Exactly.
Sorry, we seem to have something off. Mwangi, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Anything you want to add, especially in line with your work, because I feel like your work is very interesting. Okay, I feel like there's a technical hitch.
Mhm. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, I can hear
Yes,
you.
we do.
Yes. I would say somebody asked a question. I wasn't able to hear most of the information, but there was a question on where are you using irrigation engineering? Something of the sort. I would say that I've worked in many places.
Guys, I think there's a technical hitch again. Engineer Mwangi. Maybe when he rejoins us again, he'll just tell me and, you know, say something.
Water engineer.
I'm here.
Hello.
Which one are you referring to?
I was referring to the engineer Mwangi, civil engineer. Even you'll say something in a bit. Okay. I think Engineer Francis Mwangi from Konza.
Hello. Yes. Can you hear me?
Hey, how is the network in Limuru?
It's very bad. I would presume.
It's even told me Francis Mwangi's network bandwidth is low. Okay.
Hear me.
We can hear you, but it's on and off, eh?
On and off. Let me try change the networks.
Okay, you can just try change the networks as we speak with the other engineer, David Mwangi. Engineer David, are you there?
I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
From the presentation, is there anything you'd like to add? Is there anything you'd like to, tell our mentees?
Oh, okay. Well,
or are you still driving?
No. I've now officially landed. I caught something regarding aligning your goals with where you're actually employed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something which is actually very important. I've received quite a number of calls from people who are actually in practice, but they were in how do I put it? They were in employment that was not beneficial to registration.
Yes. That's actually something very critical in our industry. Yeah.
So they were in employment that was not beneficial to registration, which also raises a bit of problems, especially when guys are trying to get registered. They're like, oh, I've been working as a sales guy, doing a bit of technical work, but it doesn't apply. Yeah. So in my view, that's something that also people should always keep in mind. I know employment, you can't pick and choose.
Yeah, you
but
can't.
If there's opportunity to even like work under someone, even if it's for small change or even for free, depending on what your objective is. I found consultancy is the easiest way to get registered, like in whichever field, civil, electric, M&D. So if you find yourself in a position where you're not working in an environment that allows you to get registered, if that is your goal, actually, if that is your ultimate goal, to actually get registration, then it's advisable to sort of adjust your if you can get better, if you can, your compass, if you can get employment in a place that will guide you in that direction, well, if you can't, I mean, there are guys who are always willing to have a few extra hands to help them do one or two things.
Yeah.
And you can shadow someone to try and get that experience. Yeah.
I think even as we go back to was it third or fourth slide, you should be very open to internship, especially between 2 to 3 years. Yeah, you see huku mbele being in internship, like basically giving your time to an organization that is not paying you, and you have bills, you know, you have wants and needs. So between 2 to 3 years, when you're still, you know, under the guide, let's say, of your parents, or there's some sort of cushioning, you should always be open to internship, as long as you know that you're really going to learn something from it, and it's in line with what you want to do. It's in line with your goals. It's in line with your career path. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, I'm back. I don't know if you can hear me now.
Now we can hear you. What do you have to tell us now?
Maybe a few things. In your first 1, 2, 3 years, you should not really be so worried about registration. You should not even be worried about the money that you're making. You should just be worried about, are you in a place where you're able to learn? A good case study is, yes, a good case study is how I started my life. Some of you might know Engineer Goro, a very prominent engineer out there. He actually gave people a chance to be able to practice their engineering. And one of the things that people used to say is that this engineer might not really pay you the amount of money you want. But he told me as one of the guiding principles that he had is that you work for 3 years for me, you register yourself, and then you work for yourself for all the other years. So the question is, what are you able to make in these first 3 years that you have? Of course, we went to campus. We were able to learn all the disciplines in civil. Like an example, our example is civil engineering. We did irrigation, we did transport, we did water, sewer, public health. We basically did all that.
Yeah.
Yes. So the question was, when are we ever going to use this? And I happened to be in a place where I actually happened to use all these plus mechanical engineering, electrical engineering.
Exactly.
Yes, because when I joined Konza Technopolis, we only had one engineer who was the civil engineer, basically me. We had one ICT engineer, a QS, and an architect. Those are the 4 people who are running Konza Technopolis when in the first years of its inception. Yes, these engineers were mandated to work on a 400 acres piece of land. They are supposed to do transport. Basically, we call it streetscape in our place. It is called streetscape because it encompasses roads, cycle paths, walkways, greeneries, and all those things that you normally ask on in the main group. So I'm really interested to have you people come to our site to show you that this is what we've been trying to do, and hopefully we'll be able to achieve it. So that was in roads. We also do things in structures, like we have a utility corridor. A utility corridor in our place is basically where all the utilities are placed below ground. And these are below the road sections, done during the design stage, and of course implemented before you do the pavement layers of the road and all such things. We also have water treatment plants. We have a water reclamation facility, what we would call a sewer plant. The sewer plant treats water to reusable conditions, so some of it is pumped back for black use, that is flushing toilets. The rest is used for irrigation and such things. So you see, irrigation comes in again. We have solid waste management systems and all such kind of things. So the question is, as you're moving along your life, don't be so rigid. Be agile. Do whatever it takes to survive the first 3 years. They are very critical, and they will ensure that you have the right foundation for you to be an engineer as you go along. When you get to your 3rd, 4th year, to your 4th, 5th year, then of course the documentation that you've done through the projects that you've done, ensuring that all the projects had challenges that you are able to participate in solving, then you'll be able to have a very easy path to registration. That would be my small contribution.
Advice.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, engineer, for that. I hope the mentees Percy, I hope you've heard all this. And as engineer Latoya mentioned, I think Abira was with us, but she was in another meeting, so I don't know. Let me just give her 10 seconds. Abira, can you hear us? Yeah, let's assume that she's holed up in the meeting. So I think everyone has spoken. Yeah, and I would like to thank everyone for joining us in this session. The material that I have, I'll send to you guys, and let's not make it a one-off. Let's.
Hello, before you close it,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that I had suggested to some of the members that at Konza Technopolis we have a few opportunities for trainees.
Oh, for trainees,
for internships, yes. And graduate trainees, such kind of things. So
all right.
I would just propose if you would get what do you call it? Kama tunaweza pata njia ya kama ACEK to do an official letter saying that we have these FLs that would want a chance to be able to be considered. Then that would be a great avenue. And of course, this is in our mandate. Of course, we need to transfer the knowledge to our fellow engineers. There are various projects that we are working on. Of course, for the main project, we have all the disciplines, as I had initially said. We have architects, we have electrical, mechanical, quantity surveyors. We have a need for even the land surveyors and even planners. So that is for the first project. We have other projects that are coming up. You might have seen in the news, there's the issue of KAIST, a university from that is based on the Korean model that is coming up. It has raised a lot of heat because people say that we were basically giving our jobs only to the Koreans, but it is good. Of course, we don't discuss the loan agreements and such clauses that are put in place, and especially where a grant has been given. Then of course, whoever gives the grant gets to say how the monies will be used. So that is coming up. It should be starting sometimes in July of this year. Anybody interested, of course, in universities and such kind of things, research university should be able to just keep on the lookout for Konza things. We have a data center that is about to be completed. The first phase was completed and it has already gone live. We have another one that is under construction, and of course it would bind well to know what is needed in a data center, the knowledge areas that are needed, and of course work towards such things.
Okay, and thank you so much, Engineer Mwangi.
Regarding that, Konza technology. I wanted to know, is it possible, even if it's not part of the training, is it possible for someone to do a site visit just to get to have an idea of what's happening there on the site?
In fact, I was just about to propose that. As part of Future Leaders Mandate, I think we're supposed to be doing a lot of site visits. We've done is it Savannah Cement or something? We've done the Pinnacle Towers in Upper Hill. So I think Konza would be a very, very good site visit opportunity. But of course, now we have to wait for this pandemic to calm down.
Yeah, the only challenge is the pandemic. But other than that,
I will propose that.
Yeah, we are always welcoming. Yeah.
Can I chime in on that one? Yeah, that issue of the visit is actually very interesting to me. Yeah, and also, last year we had a chance of going to Nairobi University. We had a forum about for mentoring the uni students. So we had participation from JKUAT and Nairobi University, but KU had also expressed the need to, to also join in on those things. So like a visit like that, if we plan it properly, we could also include some of the guys from campus who can also tag along. I mean, for them, it's interesting. They don't have I think what I got mainly was they don't have the concept of what we do is in engineering. I think what they study in school and how it translates to actual work.
How to the actual work.
there's a huge gap. So I think also a visit like that would be interesting for them, because I know some of them also may be interested in the university that he's talking about. I mean, once they graduate, they may decide, why not join a research university that is coming up in the near future.
Yeah. No, I think that would be very crucial, and it's a good thing you've brought it up, because I'm planning on doing another mentorship session, but now for university guys. So probably if the team that was here, if you can join me, later, I will communicate at a later date. If you can join me later, we'll see how we can, impose that information on them.
We can work out the details, and then we get back to Francis on how best he can help facilitate or how
actually,
he can give input.
Luckily, you don't even have to get back to me, because I'm already here.
Bas.
Yes,
and then secondly, I was going to ask, what is Konza doing for small and medium enterprises?
Small and medium enterprises.
Yes, or rather, small and medium consulting
firm. Those whose turnover is what was it? 4 million or 40 million?
who want to get into doing work with Konza Technopolis?
Konza Technopolis.
Exactly.
First of all, being a government body, of course, it requires that, of course, we give everybody an equal opportunity towards employment, contracts, and everything. But you'll find that what we are doing in Konza Technopolis, most of it is very specialized. And like the main contract where people would have gotten a chance to be able to, of course, give their input. The contract is a design. It's an EPCF kind of contract. It's engineer, procure, and design. So engineer, procure, implement, and finance. Everything is coming from the contractor side.
From the contractor side, yeah.
Yes, but you see, what the contractor has done is, since the scope is also too big for any one person, he normally sublets it to other people. One of the ways that I've ensured that we have a Kenyan representation on the same is to ensure that all the designs that are submitted to us, though they are done by Italian engineers and such kind of people, they must bear the stamp of a Kenyan engineer, to just ensure that Kenyans at least get a chance to be able to see how these designs are being developed, at the same time to just build their capacity and get something in their pockets, of course. The other things would be through the government processes. Of course, when it's being tendered out, then of course you'd be interested. The other day I was putting something up on the FL site.
Group.
The event that somebody is a contractor, of course, they would be able to see this and of course get a chance to be able to try and get the job done. Yes.
So Engineer Mwangi, the other Engineer Mwangi, have you heard that? He went off.
I'm still here. I've heard that.
Yes.
And I will be forming my small consortium very soon.
Yes.
And looking with financing in tow.
Mwangi, let me ask. Where did you do your engineering?
Nairobi
University.
Yeah.
I think Nairobi University is one of the luckiest universities, because they have UNES.
Yeah.
I don't know how easy it is to get into UNES, but UNES is one of the government bodies that gets most of the consulting works. We've already consulted them on like 5 projects that we are doing. Currently, the conference facility that we are doing at Konza Technopolis is designed by UNES. So basically, if you are able to get into UNES, it would be very easy for us to say that consider a person X in the designs of the smaller projects that we have coming up.
Thank you for that very critical piece of information. I will, that is the next order of business.
Yes,
and as you form that consortium, make sure even me, I'm there to sign some of those company documents. Okay.
No, yeah, we've been fighting. We've been saying we need to fight and get local guys band together. So people tend to be rather selfish in how they operate. They'll decide to go with an international firm, I guess for good reason. But I mean, if we could sit down and amongst ourselves, form a small consortium, and probably get good advice like the one we're being given by Francis here right now, we may find ourselves being part of that.
That very beautiful project.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, just make sure I'm there to sign, put a signature somewhere on a company document. And I feel like now we've branched off from mentorship to now discussing personal business. So
it's part of
mentorship.
It's part of the bigger picture.
Mentorship.
Yes, because if I get a good contract, what is stopping me from hiring someone from campus to come and work and also expand themselves, or get someone, a fresh graduate, to come and work with me?
Actually, exactly. That makes sense.
They go full circle. Yeah?
They go full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I do believe we've even overshot past the 1 hour mark, and that tells you how interesting some of these things are. Yeah. So, I mean, I would like to thank everyone for joining. Unless, Percy, you have one last thing to say?
No, I just want to thank you all for the advice. It's been really good, because it made me also have to think more about my plans and what I'm thinking about. Oh yeah, there's one thing I wanted to find out. Previously, before I joined GIB, I was in telecoms. I was doing site supervision for construction of base stations. And sometimes when I do my CV, I wonder whether it is relevant experience, or is it like, does it go out, does it not matter because it's not directly related to roads and what I'm currently doing? Or is it something that can be considered even if it's registration or anything else, jobs afterwards?
So I think I would answer, and if the other guys have something to chime in, they would chime in. So you know what they say about your CV and your resume. With each and every specific job that you apply for, because when you're in your career, you're doing a multitude of things. But when the other organizations or other companies are seeking employment, they want to employ someone, they'll give a pointers of what they want. Like, we are looking for this guy with this amount of years, with experience of this and this and this. So with your CV, you should always curate it to suit what your potential employer wants. You get? So for instance, if it's something like, if you did, let's say, telecoms, I don't know what aspect of telecoms, but if you did telecoms and then you're applying for a position whereby they require someone who's done roads or highways or whatever. If you've done your telecoms and, I don't know, you've laid lines on the ground, or you've done line work or whatever up there, I'm sure in that aspect, you've done a bit of, survey work, a bit of, what is the other thing? Like civil works and stuff. So this, as they say, engineering is very multidisciplinary. So you would know how to put whatever you did in telecoms, which is relevant to this other position that you're applying for. So, of course, roads is very civil work intensive. It's very survey intensive. So if you did that aspect in telecoms, you can now include it in your CV. So you should always find a way to curate. Yeah, you can't just put, for instance, if they require someone who's done, or they require a surveyor or something, then you're coming to say that you worked in which building, you're the one who's calculating the BQ for which steel. You see, the surveyor, not the quantity surveyor, the land surveyor. The land surveyor does not want to know about steel. Yeah, he wants to know that you can actually use all this. You're competent enough to use all this, survey equipment. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, you should always curate your CV. The first CV that you wrote in 2017, 2016 is definitely not the same CV that is being used right now to apply for other jobs. So that's why there's always revision 1, revision 2 of the CV. As you progress, you always curate it and know, how you're going to submit it. Yeah. So anyone else?
Maybe to add on to something, if I'm looking for a roads engineer, and I find a roads engineer who has worked in roads, worked in structures, telecoms, and anything else, I'd be more than happy. To have them on board, because it means they are diverse people. In the event that we meet any challenges that require us to deal with telecoms, these people are going to give us the advice that we might need. And every other time you'll find that these telecoms will interact with roads. If it's structures, you did bases, of course. You can be able to work on the civil works bit, as well as work on the civil works bit, as well as work on the structures. And you will not find any one discipline that is so specific that you have to exclude anything else that you might have gotten advice on along the way. That would be my advice.
Let me also contribute to that, yeah?
Yes.
I said, I work in construction department in Kenya Urban Roads Authority. And especially like us in urban roads, what you realize is during construction, there's a lot of interaction with other engineers from Nairobi Water, engineers from Kenya Power, engineers from the telecommunications company. So if as an engineer you have some sort of a little bit of information, it is very easy for us to work. Like I remember in Outer Ring Road, we were trying to design a common service duct, and of course, I just want to provide one. Then Kenya Power engineer comes and says, no, I cannot share with water, Then this other guy says for telecommunications, it's like this and that. So for an engineer, every knowledge or skill, experience you have in other discipline, it still adds value to your profession and to your practice. Okay, that's what I have. I'm driving, I'm sorry.
No problem.
That is very good. At least I know that you're very committed, to this session, man. So
yes.
Thank you very much. I hope the mentees have heard that, and this, I didn't actually expect it to even get to 1 hour, but we've done almost an hour and a half, which is very commendable on our part. So unless there's someone else who has any pressing issue.
No, sorry. I was to chime in, then I let Doreen pass. So I said, I'll wait. I was going to say, Percy, if what you can do, maybe put down your experience in as detailed way as possible. What you did when you're in telecoms. Huh? Yeah. So of course, even I said exactly what would happen. You'll pick things from that experience which will tie into exactly what you're doing, or will add value, make you more versatile, a more versatile candidate for whatever you're after, whether it is registration or even another job or something. Because yes, like you said, nothing is done in isolation. Even me, I didn't start doing consultancy. I was fixing computers, I was doing networking, and somehow when I landed in consultancy, I still needed to use some of those skills. Yeah. So it works out somewhere. So if you can't put it in detailed form, then any one of us who is more versed in the civil department can tell you what would work best for you, or what you should bring out more to help you, further your agenda. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's good. Anyone else with there's always someone. Percy, you're very lucky. Yes, Doreen.
Okay.
Yes,
okay,
Doreen.
you mentioned it in your presentation skills. Sorry, in your presentation, but let me mention it. The soft skills, communication and networking. And I want to dwell on this networking, not only for you to get the next job. You know, when you're working as an engineer, if like now I've known Engineer Francis, you know, I know Engineer Mwangi is an electrical engineer. And in a project, you meet these small problems that you don't even need to engage, to pay money to another engineer. You just need to I call Engineer Mwangi, electrical engineer, just something so small, you know. There's this cable I've seen, what is it for? And he tells me, no, that's one engineer, you cannot touch it. So networking for engineers amongst ourselves is very important, very crucial. So, and having maybe known how to interact with various people, engineers and non-engineers, it's very important. So anytime you have an opportunity to network, please take note of it and don't take it for granted.
Sure.
Over to you, Ken.
Thank you. Now, I've just remembered, when I go back to my slide, if everyone can see, please do not try and visit us. Just visit us. Our Facebook is ACEK Future Leaders Kenya. Our Twitter is ACEK FL at ACEK FL _Kenya. This page is alive. You guys need to join us. The LinkedIn is ACEK FL Leaders Kenya, and of course our emails is ypfkenya@gmail.com. So to the mentees, I will share this very presentation to you guys, and don't forget that it doesn't stop here. If you have any questions, you have my number, you have everyone's number, you have the email address here. Always just do not be afraid to, you know, shoot any question. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. I can see, Engineer Mwangi, you have something else to say, or you're saying peace?
No. I'm just saying peace, and critically, we should not even be aiming at registration. We should be aiming at taking up the industry now.
At taking up the industry, exactly. Yeah. So thank you so much, guys, for that very interesting session. I've had so much fun. And to the next, at least now we have a team of very competent mentors. So until the next time, namaste. Shukran.
Thank you,
Bye,
Engineer.
have a nice evening.
All right.
You too, bye.
Cheers.
Bye. Engineer Francis, could I have your number?
He's gone. No, I'll give you. He's
Okay.
We were in school together. Yeah. I'll give you.
Good. Sawa,
Yeah.
Engineer. Asante. Okay.
Aya, tutaongea.
Sawa.